Good afternoon. I'm going to introduce myself, Miguel Carrillo. I PhD students in computing security and information by the UCLM. I'm also a security analyst in Memo and co-founder of Hanisec. In today's workshop or talk, I will speak about BadUSB and the vulnerability to introduce commands or payload by keyboard impersonation, whether Windows or Mac. The vulnerability is the USB HID, that is the human interface for devices. It was created by a Microsoft employee, and it was introduced to an USB agency. The idea was to just plug and play to a computer without looking for sophisticated drives. In the past, whenever you had to introduce a keyboard, you needed the right controller, and it was quite complicated. Today, computers acknowledge the keyboard without a problem, and they use mainly two interfaces. Both protocol, this interface does not need HID, which we usually use at the BY-AO. You don't need anything installed in your device to recognize the keyboard or the mouse. Then we have report mode, that is the interface used by the US to acknowledge the keyboard or some of the new keys, some of the new features like turn down the computer or reboot. They have some data files in the USB that communicate to the OS to provide the necessary information. If there is any special typology, it will also add it to the interface. If the keyboard had another tactile pad, it will have another interface to that aim. As you see on too many sites, there are hundreds of devices with USBs that can be clearly seen. You go to the bank and you can see all USBs unprotected. They are active. The same about printers, and that is very often the case in hospitals, in offices, they do not realize how vulnerable this can be. In 5 seconds, you can end up having a total control over the device. Those are the main microcontrollers that we can use to do a BadUSB. The first is 80 MegaThirty-two, is installed in Leonardo. Is one of the first projects that changed the firewall to create a BadUSB. The second is 80 Tini, is a more economical version. It has less memory, and it allowed more reduced payloads, but is very much used. And the last one, the Python, it's in many USBs, Toshiba or any other well-known brands, and is very much used. The flash memory, because it's a pen drive, is defined by the pen drive capacity, 16 or 32 gigabytes. Those are the best known models. The Rubber Ducky or Ducky is quite an expensive. The Leonardo was one of the first devices, and the Ovipositor, that in addition to be a BadUSB, is a physical key log from a Phoenix company. Those are the most economical versions manufactured in China that we can find in internet. The first you can see in the slide, it does not have micro SLD gap that allow us to change the script without flashing the chip. If we want to change, if we want to add new commands with the keyboard, we had to flash the chip again. In the micro SD inlet, this wouldn't be needed. We might just have to change the file. What you see in the lower part is a rather simple project, which is adding Wi-Fi. You can always add Wi-Fi with a small FTP host where you can upload the files we're interested in, passwords in Windows or whatever. This is one of the latest models, and as I said before, it has the micro SD inlet from 8 to 10 euros. That's the price. Now, for installing, we have two repositories. We have Stefan Kremser, a German security analyst, and Ernesto. I don't know if you know Ernesto. He is very often in congresses. He's given a very interesting talk in Barcelona about hacking, and they both work quite well. And I use Ernesto's because he's closer to me. It's as easy as to download Arduino's ID and install the software. I will do a demonstration now.
Bueno, pues en el fondo es tan sencillo como esto.
It's as simple as this.
Hemos añadido el código.
We've added the code that we will compile at the microcontroller. We just have to add open and add the firewall of the downloaded repository, and we press install. There are different things to be taken into account for this process. As for example, the libraries. Arduino does not know that we have a Spanish keyboard with the ñ, and not only that, some other changes in the key, and they might have some others as Thomas or quotes. So we download the full library. We'll have to replace the main folder so that it acknowledges the Spanish keyboard. It all depends on our objective. Whether if we know there is not a Spanish user, then it will be any other keyboard. Another step is to select the device and to simplify the use of this installation without having to compile anything. We can just add it using the Arduino system. This is one of the most simple scripts that we can enter. We can write in a notepad, send the characters chain, and print Hola Mundo, or Hello the World. This script system has a subscript system created by HiPi, and it's very simple. It's got some similarities with other programming systems, but not too many. In C and BASIC, it comments with REM and is rather intuitive. Here we have one that is more intrusive. Basically, all commands that will interact more with the system will have to be directly in PowerShell, and that depends on our imagination. As I said, usually we should introduce a delay from 1 to 3 seconds so that the computer has the chance, the HID, to keep the communication so that it knows that it's a keyboard we're talking about. Here we see how simple it is to deactivate Windows Defender, that is the protection system. Majority of people have read many comments in internet of people that say that you don't need antivirus, that with Windows Defender is enough, and this is a way that just in 5 seconds you can deactivate Windows Defender. And then what you want to add, this is a small script, but you can go on with the rest of the options. Here we have the Mimicat. I don't know if you know it. It's a small script that compiles all Windows passwords and copy them. And here, how easy it is to download a file and execute it. In 5 seconds, we can execute any file in a computer. Here in this website, we have different payloads, rubber duckies. The main is the Sapphire website. It has many payloads for hundreds of users from Mac, Windows, Linux. We just have to change a few commands. For example, when you press OUR says that is for Windows, but the same can be used for Mac. You just change the key. And this would be some of the systems, protection systems by companies or individuals. We have G-Data. It was one of the first ones to include this protection in their security pack, antivirus and some other uses. And you have a warning with a message that there is another keyboard in the device and whether you want to stop it or continue working with it. Then we have the small script made in Python by Miguel Arroyo. There is a similar system. It detects the keyboard, but you have to execute the script beforehand. And now I'm going to do a small demonstration of the rubber ducky. This is a small script, a visual script. If we don't want to make it visual, we just have to introduce the commands to access a website, and the file is downloaded that you will see at the desktop. And this file is now visual, and we have just gave indications about where to be installed. We can change this directory, we can choose any other. It doesn't have to be just a file, it can be a web shell or what we feel like. And if you want to make any concept test or if you have any doubt, you're welcome. This is more or less the main use of the rubber ducky.
¿Tenéis alguna pregunta? De momento.
Do you have any questions so far?
¿Alguien tiene preguntas?
Do you have any questions? And please use the microphone. This was the presentation so that you could see the dangers. Nobody is going to get into your house and going to do this when they can steal your computer directly, but at companies level or in hospitals or in many other public places, they should be concerned of this. They should deactivate the USB not only by the software but also by hardware, and they should deactivate them by default.
Y bueno, si nadie más tiene...
If you have no further questions,